Yasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragna Tanvitam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrushabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamahum Vande Shri Gurum Vinataranam Paramananda Madhapam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Let's continue discussing on the 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter titled Departure of Lord Sri Krishna. Just to give a recap of what we discussed in the last session, in the 9th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we discussed about the departure of Bhishma Dev, how he gave instructions on different types of dharma to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He glorified Krishna, and then at the auspicious moment of Uttarayana, he left his body. And after the departure of Bhishma Dev, all the personalities were present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. They became silent like the birds in the evening. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj, being guided by all the Brahmanas, he performed all the funeral rites. Then, accompanied by his brothers and the other saintly personalities, as well as the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, he comes back to the palace and consoles Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari. And this is how the 9th chapter finishes. If you recollect, Krishna, after assisting the Pandavas in their war against Kauravas, he was initially requested by Kunti Maharani to stay, and then later on by Yudhishthira Maharaj to stay a bit more, because there was a lot of loss on both the sides, and especially Yudhishthira Maharaj was feeling unconsolable because he took all the blame upon himself, and then he was weeping, crying uncontrollably. This is one great symptom of pure devotees we can see. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita is given once when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing in Srivasanga. He suddenly stopped Kirtan, and then he told the devotees there, I'm not getting the same ecstasy that I usually get. It looks like someone who's not supposed to be here is here. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, every pure devotee in that assembly, they felt, I'm the culprit here. I'm the reason. Normally, we tend to put the blame on others. If we happen to be in that assembly, and if we hear Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying, we'll be very quick to point our finger at other devotees around. But here we can see the same quality being demonstrated by Yudhishthira Maharaj, wherein he's not at all focusing on the atrocities, different types of austerities that has been perpetrated by the Kauravas for so many years, right from their childhood, all the way up to the events leading up to Kurukshetra war, and even during Kurukshetra war also, they didn't follow the rules of Kshatriya code. Nevertheless, Yudhishthira Maharaj took it upon himself, solely blaming himself, the reason for so many casualties that happened during the war at Kurukshetra. So Krishna was consoled, or Krishna was convinced rather, to extend his stay in Hastinapur. And Krishna extended his stay further. And then after performing the funeral rites, when Yudhishthir Maharaj comes, Krishna extended his stay even more further for only one personality, who is his dear sister, Subhadra Maharani. Subhadra Maharani had lost her only son, Abhimanyu. So Krishna, as the dutiful brother, he extended his stay because of that reason. So this chapter gives a lot of description about the kingdom of Yudhishthir Maharaj. Prabhupada would often say in Kali Yuga, it's very hard to get any kind of help, normal help which Mother Nature would actually provide. It's not very easily available these days. The rain will actually go very less. There'll be too much tax that will be imparted by the ruling governments. The food and vegetables that are usually available in abundance won't be available anymore, so on and so forth. This description that is given in this particular chapter about Yudhishthir Maharaj's rule will give us what Mother Nature can do if whoever who is actually ruling, as well as is the duty of the citizens as well. If everyone follows on the path of Dharma, if everyone follows the path of Krishna consciousness, how Mother Nature would reciprocate. You can see that in detail in this particular chapter. Srila Prabhupada often quote the rule of Yudhishthir Maharaj, just like people talk about Ram Rajya, based on the descriptions that are given in Ramayana. In a more recent time, there are many instances when Yudhishthir Maharaj's rule is also glorified accordingly. Prabhupada has mentioned about it in many of his conversations, many of his talks as well, in other places, even in the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita, you would see as well. So the first 6 verses of the 10th chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam discusses about the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Shaunaka Rishi asks Sutta Goswami, after killing the aggressors, how did Yudhishthir Maharaj rule his kingdom? And he also adds, we are pretty sure that there will always be some disturbances, because material world means trouble. Dukkalayam ashashvatam. That doesn't mean we should be very indifferent to maintaining this material world. We are here, so we should still follow the principles of Dharma. We should still take good care of Mother Nature. We should still keep our place clean. We should still do whatever that we can to perform Dharma in as best possible way. But here, Sutta Goswami, if you see his reply, it will be quite interesting. Sutta Goswami says the Kuru dynasty, firstly, which means primarily Kauravas, but also those who fought on behalf of the Pandavas as well, at least most of them. The whole Kuru dynasty was exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. And Lord Krishna was very pleased by re-establishing Yudhishthir Maharaj. If we look at it on face value or from a materialistic perspective, Duryodhana wasn't a very bad thing. Citizens were still happy. In fact, there is one instance when even Dhritarashtra, when he cries after the departure or after the death of Duryodhana, he says, who were all unhappy under the rule of Duryodhana? Wasn't he a great king? And many could agree. Yes, he was a good king, very powerful warrior. He was protecting his citizens. Everything was fine. But that's not good enough for good rule. The whole purpose of us being in the material world is because of our rebellion from the Supreme Lord. And the perfection of human life should not be measured based on material prosperity alone. In fact, it's given consideration, but very, very tiny consideration. The most important point of a human form of life is how we are re-establishing our lost connection. Otherwise, if we focus only on the materialist pursuits, then we may be born again and we'll still keep on fighting this unending, inexhaustible fire of material existence. So it's simply not possible. The description that's given is like if we are suddenly dropped in the middle of an ocean, no boat, nothing. How long can we swim? Prabhupada would often say, even the most expert swimmer can't make it to the shore. It's impossible. So the success of human form of life is not solely measured based on material prosperity, as the modern understanding goes. Instead, it is based on how well one can re-establish one's lost connection with the Supreme Lord. So here, Kuru dynasty was exhausted by the fire because they offended Pandavas who are pure devotees of the Lord. And Lord Sri Krishna desired Yudhishthira Maharaj to be the ruler of the entire world. And that's the reason why Kurukshetra war came to be. Yudhishthira Maharaj was already guided by Bhishma Dev in so many different paths of Dharma. Krishna was also there imparting him knowledge, taking guidance from all the other Brahmanas, as well as from Supreme Lord himself. Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled his kingdom in a very, very prosperous manner. In fact, the description is given. There was sufficient rainfall. You can read descriptions of this in later in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam as well as in other places, 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How, when we perform our dharma to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Supreme Lord will be pleased. When Supreme Lord is pleased, Mother Nature will be very happy to give her bounty. So all the living entities can be happy, not just humans. We form a very, very tiny proportion of the number of living entities. In whichever home that you live, if you dig the ground deep, the number of worms that would live, they would far outnumber the total population of humans on this planet. So we are very, 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 very minority, actually, very tiny. The number of flies, the number of birds, they outnumber us. Forget about the varieties of birds. Even in one species of birds, they have many more than what we are. So we are very, very tiny. This world is not just made for humans. So when prosperity is mentioned, when rainfall is mentioned, it benefits everyone. So there was sufficient rainfall. Prabhupada often say rainfall means at daytime there should be plenty of sun and at nighttime there should be rainfall. Then it is good because then daytime vegetation will properly grow. Otherwise, if the rain falls too much during the daytime, then the plants won't get enough sun. Most likely the plants will be spoiled. So in Vedic times, when it is mentioned there is sufficient rainfall, it's not just the sufficiency of rainfall that's emphasized, but the timing of the rainfall also matters. So sufficient rainfall means plenty of rainfall happening at night, and daytime there is still a lot of sun. That is the best combination for any vegetation to grow properly. There is profuse production from the earth. Earth gives everything. Earth gives minerals, earth gives metals, earth gives drugs that is required for curing human ailments, so on and so forth. So earth has got everything here with her. Earth also takes away the gold. If we think, sometimes I used to think that in those days, what are that they had? We read all these descriptions about gold, about so many costly jewels, so many precious stones. Where did they go? They didn't vanish in thin air. They didn't vaporize. They are still in earth only. But earth is covering. Earth is not, Mother Earth is not revealing the wealth that she has because she is not convinced that the people who are going to use will put it into proper use. But when the entire population is leading their life simply to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, following proper rules and regulations, so today is Ekadashi, following proper Ekadashi, then Mother Nature will be very pleased and she would help the devotees to perform their bhakti even better, even in a more opulent way, so to speak. So here, there was sufficient rainfall, there was profuse production from the earth, of course, grains, of course, flowers, vegetables, fruits, everything. Happy cows that moisten the ground with their milk. It's mentioned that people didn't even have to milk the cows. Just like how Mother Earth is feeling the love and she is giving out her wealth, similarly, Mother cows also will feel so much nicely taken care. And out of the motherly affection, she will also give milk in abundance, even without anyone milking. This is the description we see in Krishna Lila. And here in Yudhishthir Maharaj's rule also, we see happy cows that moisten the ground with their milk, and profuse tax paid by the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forest creepers, and active drugs. Everyone and everything in this world was very happy, and everyone is giving out their opulence for the engagement of the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then the description is given about happy citizens. No one was disturbed by anxieties, diseases, or excessive heat and cold caused by nature, other living beings, or their own bodies and minds. In other words, all the three different types of kleshas were practically non-existent. Adhyatmic, the anxieties or the pain which is caused by one's mind. Adi Daivik, those which are caused by the demigods. And Adi Bhautik, those which are caused by other living entities. None of them were present. In this way, the prosperity of Yudhishthir Maharaj's kingdom was described by Sutta Goswami. And now the day which all the Pandavas, along with all their citizens, feared would never come to pass, came to be. The day came for Lord Krishna to leave. As Lord Krishna had stayed for a prolonged period of time, he is also worried about his own family men, the Vrishnis, his 16,108 wives, his parents, his citizens in Dvaraka. Yudhishthir Maharaj, on one hand, he wanted to keep Krishna with him forever, and so did all the residents of Hastinapur. But at the same time, Yudhishthir Maharaj also realizes that Krishna is needed in other places, especially it's time that he goes back to his home, because Krishna had arrived even before the Kurukshetra war started. From there, he went as a peace messenger to Hastinapur, came back, again helped them with the war. Post the war, again Krishna had to stay for so many months to pacify everyone, to bring Yudhishthira Maharaj to a more stable state of mind, away from any of the guilt he was feeling. And now time has come for Krishna to leave. Krishna had extended his stay even after Bhishma Dev's departure, simply to console everyone, especially his dear sister Subhadra Maharani. Now Krishna takes permission from Yudhishthir Maharaj to leave. He exchanged embraces, offered obeisances, and then when the time came for Krishna to leave, this is the description that's given. Unable to bear that separation from Krishna, there is a list of personalities who are given, who were feeling pangs of separation. In fact, it's given, they were nearly fainting. Subhadra Maharani, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu. Yuyutsu was one of the sons of Dhritarashtra, born of a maidservant. So when the time came for the war to start, at that time, Yudhishthir Maharaj made an announcement, if at this point, this is the final chance for you. If any of you like to swap the sides, you can. Yuyutsu was the only personality who came from Duryodhana's side to the Pandava side. So Yuyutsu, you will find his name in many places also later. He was also against. He raised his voice when the Kauravas, they attempted to disrobe Mother Draupadi in the assembly. At that time also you will see Yuyutsu was, even though technically he is counted as a Kaurava, he was very much respected by the Pandavas for all the support he had actually provided them, for all the dharmic instructions he had actually imparted. So you'll see his name even later, even after the departure of the 5 Pandavas also, you'll see his name. Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadev, Bhimasena, Daumya. Again, great personality. Dhaumya was their like a Kulaguru in one sense. He was a Brahmana, and he never left Pandavas even when they were in the forest. He was with them for 12 years. 13th year alone, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked him to leave because they are supposed to go in Agyatavas. They didn't want to take any chances, and they didn't say anything about their whereabouts. At that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj tells them to return back, and then he can rejoin him once they actually come back from the 13th year. So Dhaumya Rishi as well as Satyavati, they all nearly fainted. Now here, the intensity of separation is given. Normally, one question that we all have is, we haven't faced an intense experience of being in union of Krishna. We were in union with Krishna in the spiritual world. So Sambhoga was there. But because we don't remember the details of it, one question we normally have ourselves, we even ask also, is if I can't remember how much attached I was to Krishna, how am I supposed to feel separation from Krishna now? How can I feel attraction towards Krishna now? Because I don't even know how I am connected with Krishna. Very true. That's why the first instruction that's given in the Shastras is that we have to engage our tongue. Of the different types of sense objects, sound is the quickest way. In many places, it said it's the only way how we can approach the transcendence, not the sense of form, not the sense of smell, but it's given sound. Sound is the medium with which we can approach the transcendence. Sound can travel almost everywhere. I remember studying in high school that sound waves don't travel in vacuum. But then recently means maybe a couple of years ago, I read in one science paper that now they have found in a certain condition, sound can travel even inside vacuum. So sound has its far-reaching effect, literally speaking, and sound is the only medium with which we can approach the spiritual world. So when we start to engage our tongue, when we start to engage our sense of hearing, in hearing about, in talking about, in glorifying Krishna, then slowly that feeling of union as well as separation will naturally sprout within our heart. Prabhupada would often say, when you chant Hare Krishna, the tongue should vibrate the holy name and your ears should hear the spiritual sound. Where is the question of mind? It's only these two senses that are involved. Of course, the sense of touch as well, as we touch the beads and chant. Otherwise, there is no other sense that is needed to worship the Supreme Lord. So in this couple of verses, the description is given about how, and most importantly, why Pandavas felt that pangs of separation. Even though in our cases, we don't remember, that's why we approach the Shastras, go with the Shastras and understand how Krishna is related to us, how we are related to Krishna, and how much we loved Krishna. Many times when we are young, if you, let's say, visit your home, visit your parents after a long time, sometimes they may remind, hey, you remember you used to love this lolly so much when you are in your childhood days. And it's one desire we might have had when we are young, but as we grew, we just moved on to other desires. We forgot about the desire. And then when somebody reminds us, we may think, yes, I used to love this so much. I remember crying for this. Prabhupada mentions one sweet pastime. Once Prabhupada was going on a shopping area with his mother, and it was Diwali time, and Prabhupada was saying, crying, trying to convince his mother why he needed a gun, just a toy gun. So then his mother was trying to tell him, no, it's not safe for you, and so many other reasons out of a motherly love. But Prabhupada, as a small boy, Abhay Charan, little kid, he was not ready to take no for an answer. So he started crying. And then finally, his mother bought him a toy gun. So Prabhupada, in one hand, Abhay Charan started to play. But then again, he started to cry to his mother that his other hand is empty. And then she says, one is enough. Then Prabhupada says, I rolled on the ground in the street. And then trying to somehow get the second gun. And then she complied and she bought him another gun. So Prabhupada says, even right from childhood, if I want something, I will get it, like that. Prabhupada is saying that's how intense we should be in fulfilling our services, in fulfilling our promises to the Supreme Lord, in executing any service. We should never back off. We see descriptions of how Madhavendra Puri, the pain he went through, the difficulties he went through to establish the worship of Gopal, who is currently worshipped as Srinathji in Dvaraka. Initially, he had to go find where the deity is, and then he had to bathe. He had to arrange this huge installation ceremony, establish the standard, train the brahmanas. And then, just when, if we are in that position, we would think, finally, now I can sit and relax. Then Gopal comes in his dream and he says, I want a chandan. And then he had to travel by walk thousands of kilometers. And then along the way, there is Kirshor Gopinath, the pastime. And then finally, when he acquires the chandan on the way, at that time, Gopal comes in his dream again and he says, I'm satisfied with your service. You can offer the chandan to Gopinathji in Ramana. So you will see, service means it's always expressed by going through pain voluntarily. When we think that it is pain, it is pain. No doubt about it. But let's see what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, any pain that I experience in the execution of service of Krishna, they are the source of my greatest pleasures, because it's a labor of love at the end of the day. We are doing it. Yes, it may be difficult, but for who? That matters. It's for Shri Radha Gopinath. So everything that we do, everything that's connected with them will actually bring us joy. No doubt about it. When we try to please them, and if they are pleased, we'll be pleased, the whole world will be pleased. So here, these two verses describe about the unbearable separation. The verses 11 and 12. 11th verse, in order to understand about the intensity of 12th verse, 11th verse first tells us a bare minimum condition, or the experience of new devotees. And then it goes going in detail about experience of pure devotees, experience of separation of pure devotees. So, satsangam mukta dusango hatum na utsahate buddha kirtimanam yasho yashya shakrida karnya rochanam. It says that satsangam mukta dusango. If a person had given up the association of bad association of materialistic men and embraced the association of pure devotees, satsangam mukta dusanga. One was given bad association and one who has taken up good association. Hatum na utsahate buddha. And if one is engaged in kirtyamanam yashavashaha, in hearing about the glories of the Supreme Lord. Kirtyamanam yashavashaha means to hear, to glorify about the unparalleled or uncommon qualities of the Supreme Lord. How often? Shakrida-karnya rochanam, even once. In other words, if a person had given up bad association, came in contact in the association of pure devotees, and Kirtyamanam Yasha Yashaha, heard about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shakrida-karnya rochanam, even once. Even they can't bear pangs of separation to go away from that association, to stop hearing about the glories of the Supreme Lord. This is for brand new devotees. And now, after saying this, the reason why Sutta Goswami is saying this verse is, even somebody who's new, who has just come to Krishna consciousness, if he is in proper association and hearing about the glories of Krishna, even such a person will feel so much separation within the heart to go away if he or she is away from such association. And now he raises the bar. If this is the case even for new devotees, now he says how Pandavas used to associate with the Supreme Lord. Tasmin nyasta diya partha. First thing, contradiction, or first thing where he actually points out the difference between pure devotees and new devotees is New devotees, at least they have heard only. Kirtyamanam yasho yashaha shakridakar rochanam. They may have heard here and there once or twice. Even they can't feel pangs of separation from Krishna. Now, compared to them, the Pandavas, firstly, they didn't just give the ears. He says, Tasmin yasta diya partha. Here, partha is used in plural, meaning all the Pandavas. Tasmin yasta diya. Diya means one's mind and intelligence. Even if one gives oral reception, once one can't bear the separation, how can Pandavas bear the pangs of separation when Tasmin yasta diya partha, when they have given their whole mind and consciousness? That's the first point. Tasmin yasta diya partha saheran viraham katam. How can they withhold or withstand rather the pain of separation from Krishna when they have given their mind towards Krishna? Not only there, then he mentions about, normally we hear 6 types of loving exchanges between devotees. Dadati pratigranati guhi makati pruchati bhunkte bojayate chaiva. It's given 6 types. Sadvidam priti lakshanam, 6 types of loving exchanges. But here, this verse mentions about 6 types of loving exchanges between Pandavas and the Supreme Lord Krishna. Tasmin yasta diya partha sarehan viraham katam darshana sparsha samlapa sayana shayana bhojanahi. 6 types of loving exchange. Darshana, they were able to constantly see him. Darshana, sparsha, they were able to touch him, embrace him, give him a pat on the back. Always, as any two intimate people, or when you go in your family, you will never see your parents just standing there. Welcome home. No, they'll come, embrace, they'll shed tears. They'll embrace one way and they'll turn the direction, embrace the other way. Even if you meet some friend, we'll see. This is how Pandavas were dealing with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Darshana, sparsha, which is touching. Samlapa. Samlapa means to converse. They were talking with Krishna all the time, in person. Darshana, sparsha, samlapa, shayana, sleeping. Huge queen size bed. Krishna is sleeping in one direction. They are also sleeping in another direction. That's how intimate they were. Darshana, sparsha, samlapa, shayana, ashana. They were also sitting in the same place, chatting with each other, sitting and taking food together, prasadam together, sitting on the same chariot right next to each other, riding on horses, with Krishna riding on his horse and they were also riding on another horse, walking together, spending time together, just like how any two intimate friends would behave. I remember when I read this verse, once I was in the car park in one shopping mall. I finished book distribution and I was waiting for other devotees to come and join. This verse came to my mind. I was sitting there and I was just looking around and observing how in how many ways people interact. Somewhere in phone, I could see somewhere like sitting right next to each other, somewhere talking, somewhere fighting. And you can see, even in material world, these are like so many different ways how people interact. Darshana, they see, sparsha, samlapa. Darshana, seeing, sparsha, touching, samlapa, talking, shayana, sleeping, asana, sitting in one place, bhojanahi, taking food together. Now, these 6 things Pandavas did with Krishna, it's given, which means, going back to the first verse, even if somebody had heard Krishna's name, glories once, they can't feel separation. How can Shaheram Viraham Katam, how can Pandavas bear the pain when they have exchanged with Krishna in these 6 different ways? How can they do when they have given their intelligence, their mind to Krishna? That's the topmost form of worship. But the topmost form of worship one comes to by chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhupada mentions so many places in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Remembering Krishna means to chant Hare Krishna. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu. Krishna says, we can understand this with a material example. let us say there is a husband and wife in relationship, of course, married relationship. And if one of them is actually thinking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives this verse, if one of them is actually thinking about the paramour, if the lady is actually thinking about the paramour, then she would be much more careful to serve her husband so as not to raise any suspicion. This he says in the context of how one should deal with materialistic people. Even as practicing devotees, how careful we should be. But we can learn and a lesson from this. Even though one is in a formal relationship, the most important thing in this relationship is to, of course, giving one's everything from both the parties. But if the husband is thinking about another lady, or if the wife is thinking about another man, then the chastity of this relationship is compromised between both of them. Conversely, if one is seated and one can serve Krishna in so many ways, but if one has given one's mind to Krishna, just like in this example, husband and wife is there, but if the husband is actually having an extramarital affair or wife is having an extramarital affair, they have given the most important faculty, the most important offering which they are supposed to give to each other to someone else. The most valuable thing they have given to someone else. Physically, they are just interacting. That's all. But mentally, it's already gone. In other words, where our mind is going, that's where the purity of our love is. That's where our love is directed. If I'm sitting in the class, let's say as a student, and if I'm thinking about a cricket match, my love is in cricket match. If I'm sitting in one place and if I'm at the time when I'm supposed to work, if my mind is thinking about the food, then it's gone. I cannot focus on my work. Work will be compromised, but my love is directed towards the food. Same way, if a husband and wife is in a relationship, if they are actually giving their thought to someone else, that's where the love is directed. Love is directed to their extramarital affairs. Same understanding if we bring it to Krishna consciousness. If somehow or other, if we chant Hare Krishna, if we can remember Krishna, at least every time we realize, oh, I'm not thinking of Krishna, at least that 1 second, if we can think about Krishna, the more we practice like that, the more we chant, Prabhupada says our mind will be helplessly drawn towards Krishna. Tvai me ananya vishaya, matir madhupate sakrit, rati mudva hatamata, o gange voga mudanvati. We saw this verse beautifully spoken or sung by Kunti Maharani in her prayers. May my mind rush towards you, like how Ganga is rushing towards the ocean. So here, Pandavas have demonstrated the highest form of worship, which is giving their whole consciousness to Krishna, giving their mind to Krishna. And Krishna in many places in Bhagavad Gita also, you will see Krishna making this demand. Mayi eva mana adatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya. Krishna says, give your mind to me. Mayi eva mana adatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya. Nirvishyashi, mayi eva atta urdhvam na samshaya. He says, this particular verse is the turning point in the life of Alavandar, who later on became Yamunacharya. So Krishna says, give your intelligence to me, give your mind to me. Pandavas have already given, which means their whole love is drawn towards the lotus feet of Krishna. And they have already interacted with Krishna so many ways. Like in our case, we don't even remember Krishna. Forget about how we interacted with Krishna. But here Pandavas, they are interacting with Krishna. Darshana, Sparsha, Samlapa, Shayana, Shayana, Bhojana. These 6 different ways. How can they bear the separation? So this is how Sutta Goswami responds to the questions of Shaunaka Rishi. All their hearts melted in affection. They looked upon him with unblinking eyes, tears rolling. The women blocked their tears caused by anxiety and affection. Why are people blocking their tears? Because on one hand, they feel separation, and that pain of separation is being expressed by the tears. But on the other hand, the women were also thinking, these tears may cause something inauspicious and something bad may happen to Krishna. So they are wiping it out as quickly as it starting to fall down. So this is the intimate setting that's given. And this is a feeling not felt by just one devotee, everyone there. That's how much everyone loved Krishna. And then Lord Krishna was honored. Now when the time came for Krishna to now make his way to Dvaraka, as the Lord was departing, different types of musical instruments was sounded to show him honor. Why? When Krishna was the main personality in Rajashiva sacrifice earlier, Agra Puja. Agra Puja is like the worship that is accorded to the most respectable and the most supreme personality in that whole assembly. So it was offered to him. It was only because of Krishna, Pandavas reclaimed their kingdom. It was only because of Krishna, Mother Draupadi was protected. It was only because of Krishna, all the bad forces and bad elements, they were cleaned up en masse, not just 1 or 2%. Normally, we come across situations when there may be some demon causing some trouble, and then one avatar of Krishna comes and kills, and we glorify. That is fine. Here, there are many such demons in millions. And Krishna came, he killed all of them without even using his weapon, without even him having to kill in person even once. How good is that? When have we come across any avatar of the Lord doing that? Because when the Lord comes, he kills directly, all the time, which Krishna also had demonstrated earlier. Like we talk about 18 Akshamiyas here. When Kali Yuga comes, you will find the descriptions of 22 Akshami, 24 Akshami, like that. When Jarasandha was waging war against Dvaraka, so many times, there also you will come across millions and millions of soldiers being killed personally by Krishna. But then here, Krishna has the final killing act. He performed the wiping out. He performed the obliteration of the entire Kaurava army without touching the weapon even once. That's the genius of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't need to do. Prabhupada often say Krishna comes not to just kill the demon. That Krishna can send any of the agents. No problem. He can send natural calamity. He can send one small germ, small virus. He can send one weapon sitting in Vaikuntha. Anything he can do. That's not the reason why Krishna comes. Krishna comes primarily to have loving relationship, loving reciprocation with his pure devotees. The Kuru women climbed on the roofs of the palace to see Krishna, and smiling with affection and shyness, showered flowers upon him. So as Krishna is now starting to depart, the musical instruments were sounded, the Brahmanas and the other bards, they were reciting auspicious invocations. Whenever we do Homa, we recite Swasti Vachana. Or whenever we do Adivas, or when we do deity worship and we are inviting the Lord, we do Swasti Vachana. Om Punantu Ma Deva Janaha Punantu Manasa Atiyaha. We recite auspicious sound vibrations. So that's what here for the worship of Krishna as well as for the success of his journey towards Dvaraka, we can see everyone is offering their services like this. At that time, Arjuna held up a well-decorated white umbrella. This white umbrella, unlike the modern times, is used only for elevated personalities, especially for the Supreme Lord. White umbrella, otherwise it's not used for mere mortals. Some instances you will see Devatas using it, but usually white umbrella is offered to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uddhava and Satyaki fanned the Lord, who appeared splendid. So Arjuna is holding the umbrella. Uddhava and Satyaki, they are fanning on both the sides. Brahmanas could be heard uttering benedictions which were unbefitting for the Lord. Why is the benediction unbefitting for the Lord? He is Nirgunasya, he is Supreme Lord. Why does the Lord need benedictions? He is Varadaraj. He is the king of benedictions, one who is the greatest giver of benedictions. He doesn't need any benediction. That's why it's said unbefitting the Lord. Why? Because he is Nirgunasya. He is already transcendental. Nirgunasya means without material qualities. He has spiritual qualities. Nirgunasya means without. Nir means no. Guna means qualities. But this guna refers to material qualities. So no material qualities. That's why these benedictions are unbefitting. He doesn't need it. That's how it's given. But again, immediately Sudha Goswami says, but also befitting for him. Why? Because Krishna is now walking around like a human. So in that sense, yes, it's Achintya Bheda Bheda. On one hand, he is Supreme Lord, so it's not actually needed. So it's unbefitting. Any benediction, he doesn't need any benediction. But he has taken Guna Atmanaha. He has taken the role of a normal human being. A role only. His position is still Supreme Lord. Therefore, he says, even though it's unbefitting, Nirgunasya Gunatmanaha, because he has taken the role of a human being, it is still befitting. So in this way, the description is given up until the point of Krishna starting to depart. Next section, we'll discuss in next class about the glorifications of the ladies of Hastinapur, how much deep appreciation they had and how they actually glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll see that in next class. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.